talk about tech, baby. Let's talk about you and baby. I love me some technology, and when it came to having a baby, there are so many great items out there that are helpful, that are useful, that are expensive. These are my must-have items when it comes to technology that I found helpful when I had my baby. So let's jump right in and talk about some tech. So the first item is a baby monitor. There are a ton out there on the market, but I have had experience with two of them. The iBaby monitor, and I had went into a local store here called the Pampered Tot, and I was looking at some items when I was pregnant, and the guy, of course, he was selling it at his store, so he recommended it, but he definitely, made it make sense to me. And it's a baby monitor that can go 360 degrees. It can zoom in, it has infrared lighting, or it has night vision basically. It has lullabies. You can also just access it right through your iPhone or your iPad. So you use your iPad essentially as the screen. It was great. It is great. We still use it when we travel. And the reason why I bring it when we travel, it's just good to have as kind of a backup. And that works wirelessly. So you set it up wirelessly on that network, and then you can access it through your phone and go out and be away. And my husband has even looked at it when he was in the Bahamas and we were at home using it. So, and you can control it and everything from your screen. So that is the great part about that. The reason why we love that when we travel is because when you use the other kind of monitors with the screens, they only go up to like 900, maybe 1,000 feet, and they use radio signals. So if you don't have the actual monitor screen with you, and even if you're out of the distance, you can't use it anyway. So the great thing about the iBaby is that you can use it outside of the home. So we absolutely love that. The second one that we've used, which I actually use more when I'm at home, is the Motorola version. And it's awesome because it does have a separate screen, monitor screen that you carry around and can control it with. And I like to use it at home because sometimes I'm working on my iPhone, or I'm on a call, or there's something happening where I need to utilize my smartphone and I can't be looking at that, screen. So I need something different. So that just ended up working best for us at home. And that one is great because it has a temperature gauge. So that was really important to me too, which the iBaby does not have, is that you could look at the temperature in the room and kind of gauge it. Because when they're really little, you don't want it to be too hot. If their temperature is a little bit too warm, or if their, environment is too warm, that's been linked to SIDS, and we don't even want to get into that. The second must-have item is a sound machine, and I kind of touched a little bit on a sound machine that we used when he was 0 to about 4 months old, and that was the Sleep Sheep, and that's great, to be portable, and it runs on a timer, and there's 4 distinct, very soothing environmental sounds, but we needed something that could go all night long and not run out of battery. So we purchased the Homedics, I believe it is. It's the Homedics one that you actually plug into the wall. It does run on batteries as well, but we plug it straight into the wall so that we can have it on all night long. I think it has 5 different sounds. It does have a timer of great volume control. It's very sleek, and it just sits on the floor. And we turn that on during naps and during bedtime, and it just goes until he wakes up, and we absolutely love it. There's also a travel Homedics sound machine that we used from the day we brought him home from the hospital, and I just clip it onto his car seat. There's a little lullaby that he loves, and I think our first doctor's appointment I had that on, and he was just a little trooper when he was 2 days old or whatever. So that is a great option as well. That though runs out of battery pretty quickly. It does come with a timer, but that one is awesome for travel. Now this one isn't so much a must-have unless you live in a cold place or just a place that doesn't have temperature regulation. So our new house has air conditioning and heating, but his nursery is located near the garage, and it's down on the main floor. And our room is up away from him on the back side of the house upstairs. Once he did turn 4 months, when he made the transition to his crib and into his room, So not only did I use the Motorola monitor to watch the temperature, but we got a floor heater. Now, my dad was a firefighter for 36 years, and he kind of cringed when I told him that I had to get a floor heater, space heater for Hit the Baby's room, because he just has seen too many things go wrong with them. But the technology these days is just outstanding. There's a remote, it has an auto turn off function, and once it hits a certain degree of temperature, it turns off and then it'll turn back on. So it completely regulates the room, and it just is fantastic. We keep it at 72 and the baby just loves it. Now when it comes to feeding, the most analog you can get are the boobies, and I did that for 8 months, but we started to transition into formula feeding because I had to go away from work for work on a work trip for about 4 days, and he started eating real food, and I just, wanted to prepare myself the best I could for making the transition into formula the best, and he basically kind of weaned himself. I'll get into more of that when I talk about my breastfeeding essentials and just kind of that whole process and my experience with it. But once he started to wean and drink more formula, I just needed something simple, quick, when I was home by myself with him, or for my husband, who he doesn't want to be sitting there measuring water and ounces and how much formula scoops and what else needs to go in the bottle, and we need to make it simple. I purchased the Baby Brezza, which is basically a Keurig. If you've heard those like personal 1 cup, 1 serving coffee makers. It's basically that for baby formula. It makes it so simple, you guys. It's basically the water's in, the storage. I think it goes up to about 20 ounces. And then you have a container at the top where you keep the formula. And it basically measures either in, 2, 4, 6, 8, or 10 increments of ounces of formula, and it makes the bottle for you with 1 press of the button. It makes the temperature of the bottle perfect, so it's not too hot, not too cold, so there's nothing you have to do with that as far as heating up milk, if that's what you do. It's just awesome. It is a more luxury item, obviously, but it just makes my day so much easier because he's now taking bottles that way. So the Baby Brezza has been fantastic. Now, if you were anything like my husband and I when we took the baby home and we were giving him baths eventually, and they're so tiny. You just want their environment to be nice and safe and cozy, and the water can't be too hot or it can't be too cold. So we needed something to help us. And we were bathing our baby in the sink, and our sink is really deep, really not functionable for just plopping a newborn in there. The item I'm talking about is the Moms Baby Bathtub, and it fits right into the sink. And you have the water running into the little reservoir where it's gauging the temperature, and then that water, once it hits the right temperature, it turns green. The screen turns green. So when it's too cold, it's blue. When it's green, I think it's between 90 and 99 degrees, or almost 100 is when it's perfect temperature. And then if it goes over that, it starts to beep and it turns red. No brainer there. So once it hits green and a good temperature, you plug up the holes, it fills up, and then all the dirty water is kind of filtered out as you're giving them a bath. It's amazing. I love it. He's outgrowing it as we speak, so I think this week he'll no longer use it. He's sitting up now and everything, but transitioning into the bathtub, I just need to get something that's going to help his little slippery butt cheeks. So yeah, so once we do that, it's bye-bye for Moms Bathtub. But there is also another temperature gauge that you can stick onto the actual faucet of your bathtub or shower, and it works the same way. So the water pushes through and it gauges the temperature. It's awesome. I definitely suggest getting the Bathtub by 4Moms. All right, the last things I want to talk about are apps on your phone. So I'm going to go into this again when I jump into my breastfeeding essentials, kind of must-have, my experience with breastfeeding video. But there was an app that I didn't get, I don't think, until like 5 or 6 days into me breastfeeding. I want to try to remember here. Yeah, the baby was like 7 days old or something when I left the hospital, or even when I was still in the hospital, they have you track, you know, how much you're feeding him on which side for all this stuff, just to make sure that they're actually feeding properly if they are breastfeeding. And you're writing it down. And I just remember bringing the baby back. We brought him back to a hotel. We didn't actually come home with the baby. That's a whole other story. We were in the hotel, and I just remember trying to like write down left or right for how long, and it just became kind of stressful because then you forget, and if you're feeding him every 3 hours, you're obviously feeding throughout the night and you're not getting sleep. It just became kind of a nuisance, and it's on this piece of paper. It was stupid. So obviously we go to our first like checkup, and the baby was eating great, but she's like, why don't you just get this app? This app is amazing. So she told me about I think it's called the iBaby, no, it's called the Baby Feed, and that thing just saved me because you can press start on your phone and it starts to count the time on your left. It can automatically switch. It tracks poopy diapers. It tracks when you pump. Everything on this about breastfeeding is on this app. So that made my life so much easier. Now that he's getting older, there's another app called the Wonder Weeks. And I'm not huge on like milestones or like making sure that he's right on track as far as months, because all babies are different. My baby had a 98 percentile head, you know, when he was inside of me, and he still does. So lifting his head on tummy time took a little bit longer, and it just was extra work for him, but it just all happens at different times. So I don't get stuck on, you know, oh my gosh, this is what my baby should be doing at this time. But the Wonder Weeks is great because it gives you a gauge of what to look for as far as fun things like, you know, are they gonna start looking at something? Do they track something? Do they switch something from their hand to the other hand? And just signs to look for, you know, because sometimes you're looking at this blob and you're like, okay, you're doing tummy time, but is that right? Is that wrong? I don't know. So it just kind of gives you little gauges, and it's really cute. It gives you a calendar. It'll also tell you if your baby, they call them leaps, and once this baby starts its leap, there's a lot of fussiness. There's a lot of, you know, sleep pattern changes, and there's a lot that goes on when they are making these strides. So it just kind of outlines that for you. And on the calendar, there's a little lightning bolt, like a cloudy sky, like, oh, cloudy times ahead. And then, you know, a sunny sky when he's over the leap or in the clear, basically. So it's a really cool app, and it just kind of goes through all the different stages, I think for up to a year. It might even go after that. So we've kind of been following that. And if I ever have any like questions like, why is he fussy? Like, he's been great for this long. And then I'll just kind of look at that app and I'll be like, oh, duh, it's because he's teething and he's going through categorization and he's learning how to recognize faces, and like, it just makes sense. And I love that app. I use it a lot. And then another must-have app is WebMD Baby. Now I do have to warn you, this is one of those apps that you could get totally sucked into, and if, you know, your baby's toenail falls off or something, you're like, oh my God, something's wrong. I need to look it up and what's happening. And really he just like was in his jumperoo too much and he scraped it and it, you know, peeled off or something. So don't look too much into stuff on this app because you could drive yourself crazy, but it is a great resource. It is, you know, very respectable by doctors and physicians and nurses. So I definitely go to it if I have questions, and it just gives a ton of information. So it's great to just have on hand at your fingertips through an app. So definitely check that one out. So those are my must-have tech items that I just think have been so helpful for us. You do have to remember that because this is technology, it is going to be a little bit more expensive. They aren't absolutely necessary, but they do make your life easier, and that's what technology is all about. If you have any other video suggestions for me, or if you need me to talk about my experience on, you know, a certain topic, then please let me know that. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I am all those places. So go ahead and hit me up there, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next Monday.